Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, today I'm in this 2019 BMW 8 Series, and I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes explaining all there is to know about it, and hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have a pretty good idea of whether this is the car for you, or not, as the case may be. Right, let's get started. I suppose firstly, we better have a little history lesson, hadn't we? The BMW 8 Series has been around since 2018, and it replaced the 6 Series. Like the 6 Series, this is available as a coupe, a convertible, or a 4-door Grand Coupe, which is a really good looking 4-door saloon coupe thing. That description might not make sense, but trust me, when you see one, you'll be swooning. If you're watching this and you're of a certain age, then you'll of course remember the original 8 Series, the E31, which ran from 1990 to 1999. You know which one I mean, don't you? The really futuristic looking one with the pop-up headlamps. Well, I suppose this is the spiritual successor to the E31. Only it isn't really. Sadly though, for various dull and tedious reasons, the old pop-up headlamps, which I love, are a thing of the past. I think it's to do with pedestrian safety. Why is that a concern of mine? Anyway, regardless of this new 8 Series boring and conventional headlights, I still think it's a good looking thing. It genuinely turns heads. It really does have so much presence, this car. It's a big beefy thing. It's almost like, it's a bit muscle car-y, don't you think? As I'm sat here now at some traffic lights, I'm looking in my wing mirrors and you can see the big haunches over the rear arches. It is a really imposing car, there are no two ways about it. It's as striking as it is big. In fact, that's the first thing you notice about it. I do love all of its curves and angles though. It really looks like it's going places, especially from the back. I think if you stood directly behind this car, then that's the best angle, in my opinion, obviously. Overall and as a design, I think it works really well. Now moving inside the 8 Series, it's a bit disappointing, to be honest. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's loaded with technology, most of which works really well, but it's all very dull and uninspiring. Take for instance all these buttons down here. They're perfectly flat, so when you're going at speed, you can't really tell what you're pressing. It doesn't make sense. It's not intuitive at all. And that's all before we talk about the gear lever, which looks like a turkey drumstick. You could opt for something called a crystal pack, which replaces this Bernard Matthews gear lever with one made from cut glass, but I'm not sure that works either. It looks like something from Bedknobs and Broomsticks. The dash just isn't interesting to look at, and look at this cover here which covers the 2 cup holders. Surely they could have done a better job than that. I mean, I don't know what I'm expecting really, but it just looks half-hearted. I mean, let's look at the 8 Series rivals, the Lexus LC500, the Mercedes S-Class Coupe. They've both got beautiful interiors. So much so, you'd choose those cars just for the interior. You can't say that about the 8 Series. My criticism of this car's interior might sound a bit harsh because everything you touch and press is of the highest quality. It all works really well. But it's just a bit boring. It's lacking any theatre. It's all a bit accountancy. And the first thing that struck me about this car when I first stepped inside was just how small it was. It's cramped. It's like a reverse TARDIS. What you've got here then is a car which is about as big as an aircraft carrier, and yet inside it's about as spacious as an airplane toilet, and as memorable. The low roofline means it's a bit cramped, and visibility, well, it isn't the best. Oh, and the rear seats really aren't made for human beings. Overall, then, when you're inside this car, it feels no bigger than a 4 Series coupe. It's weird. I really don't understand how they've got such little space from such a massive car. Enough negativity for now, let me show you some of its features. Let me just find somewhere safe to park up. Reverse assistant, what's this? Oh, look at this. Where's it sending me? How do you know I want to go there? End of route reached. How did you know I wanted to go there? Because I did not want to go there. I'm not a fan of technology. Take a look at the key. Have you ever seen a key like this before? Looks fairly innocuous, doesn't it? But if we tap this, I think, there we go. It's like a little mini iPad. So slide up to unlock display. There we go. So you can see how much fuel's in it. I mean, none of this is helpful while I'm sat in the car, but you can imagine while you're sat at home, it might be quite useful. So you can set the climate before you get into the car. If it's a frosty morning, you can put the heater on full whack. You can turn on the lights, open the doors, all that sort of stuff. Oh, look at that. All right. I don't like that, to be honest. No, it's not for me. It's a gimmick, I'm afraid. This is a gimmick. No. No. So you can use that to adjust the volume, but not change station. What's the point of that? You know what BMW could have done instead of all this technology, all this volume technology? Just put the little volume thing down here, like Audi do. Problem solved. In addition to that, you get cameras absolutely everywhere, and they're of the highest quality. The display is crystal clear. You also get a nice dash, head-up display, a heated steering wheel. The steering wheel feels lovely as well, by the way. The Harman Kardon sound system's excellent, and when you drive this car at night, those headlights are superb. Oh, there's one more thing I don't like, and I must tell you about this. I was reversing this into the showroom the other day, and it's quite tight, and it thought I was going to hit the car behind me, so it slammed on the brakes and then wouldn't allow me to reverse back. Now, I do this every single day of my life, and I'm something of an expert parker. I've honestly never bumped a car on the forecourt, I'm quite good at it, but it just wouldn't let me move back. And I knew I had space, because, well, I've got eyes in my head. I hate all those intrusive driver aids. They're just suffocating. Just let me get on with it. I know what I'm doing. Now let's talk about the engines. As you might expect, they're offered with various motors. The sensible choice, if you do many miles and you want maximum MPG, is the 840 diesel. Now that uses BMW's venerable 3-litre straight-six twin-turbo diesel, and it is a crack. It's one of the best diesel engines I think ever made. It produces 316 brake horsepower and enough torques to, well, I'm pretty sure it could pull that church down. That'll average 40 miles per gallon too. It's a seriously impressive engine. If you're like me though and you don't really do diesel, then don't worry, there are plenty of options for you. There's the 840, like the one I'm in today. Now that uses a 3-litre straight-six twin-turbocharged petrol, and that produces 330 horsepower, which is enough. It's enough to give this car a 0 to 62 time of just 5 seconds. And it keeps going till it hits its limiter at 155. It is all the car and all the engine you ever need. However, if you're greedy and you like a V8 motor, then you could go with the 850. Now that uses a 4.4-litre twin-turbocharged V8 with 530 horsepower. And if that doesn't sound like enough for you and you're greedier still, then you need the M8. Now, the M8 competition has a 0 to 62 time of just 2.7 seconds. 2.7 seconds. It's ridiculous. I've never driven the M8 comp, but I can tell you right now, honestly, it'll be too much. Nobody needs a car that does 0 to 62 in 2.7 seconds. I guarantee it'll be too much. It'll just be too much of a handful. Right, let's do a quick performance test. We're in sport mode. Are you ready? Sting it. Oh, bit wheel spin there. That's properly quick. You don't need the 850. You really don't. The 840 is more than adequate. It's a bit of a beast, this, you know. Wasn't expecting it to be. They all come with an 8-speed ZF gearbox, which is superb. I mean, listen to that as well. You don't need more engine than this. I'll tell you that for now. Whoa, whoa, whoa. The brakes weren't as good as I was hoping then. A little bit hot under the collar. The base models, the 840i and 840d, are both available with rear-wheel drive, but you could have got them with all-wheel drive. Those are called the X-Drive. In terms of what it's like to drive, you've got a car here which is about as big as the Houses of Parliament, and it weighs roughly the same. This weighs nearly 2 tonnes. The convertible's nearly 2.1 tonnes, so it's a big, heavy car. You'd expect this then to handle like a blancmange. It doesn't. It really doesn't. Yes, it feels big on the road, it takes up pretty much all of the carriageway, and I'm fairly sure you could land a medium-sized helicopter on the bonnet. But when you knock this into sport mode and you want to get a move on, you forget about its size completely. It feels agile and nimble. It drives like a typical BMW, really. It's impressive. It's how they're still trading off the ultimate driving machine tagline. Even this base model 840 feels like a bit of a weapon. When you knock it over to sport mode, it clings onto the gears a bit longer. It sounds lovely. I started this today in the showroom from cold and it had a lovely burble about it. When you start to get a move on these roads, you do quickly forget about the very bland interior. I just can't praise the way this car handles enough. For a big Grand Tourer like this, it's pretty good. One thing to mention though is the ride quality. It rides beautifully. It's nice and soft without being wallowy. It certainly isn't a chiropractor's dream like most BMW M Sports. I also think the weight of the steering is just about perfect. It's nice and light while you're trying to park it, but when you're in sport mode and you get a bit of a move on, it's nice and weighty. The boot space isn't bad either at 420 litres, and you can fold the rear seats down flat, so if you're carrying something like golf clubs or lacrosse bats, you can slide them right in. Now what's most interesting about the 8 Series is that when this car was new, it cost upwards of £70,000, and I wouldn't give 70 grand for this car. I'd feel quite short-changed, to be honest. But here in the UK, used prices start at just over £30,000, which I think is a genuine bargain. It's so much car for 30k. Genuinely, I think it's quite tempting at that sort of money. Not at 70, but at 30 odd, 100%. Would I have one though? That's probably what you're wondering. And would I recommend one? It's tricky. And I think I know the answer. I'm going to say no. Because even though I think it's terrific value at just over 30k, I don't love it. It doesn't get me giddy. What's funny is that when this came into stock, I was giddy about it. But after a few days, I've just tired of it. And the exact same thing happened with a few years ago, I had a 2011 640 petrol convertible, and I bought it. It was £15,000. It looked stunning. It was loaded with technology, and I bought it and I thought, this is me. But after about 2 weeks, I just felt completely detached from it. It did nothing for me at all. I had it for, I don't know, about 6 months and then sold it, and I really don't regret it. As cool as I thought it was initially, it was just quite a bland car. It really didn't rock my boat, and I know this will be the same. Personally, if I were in the market for a big Grand Tourer like this, then I'd have to buy the Lexus LC500. The one with the big V8, obviously, not the hybrid. I'm not a vegetarian. I know the LC500 is a bit more expensive, so I perhaps shouldn't compare the two. It might be a bit unfair, but that 5-litre naturally aspirated V8 is superb, as is the 10-speed automatic gearbox. It's a cracking car, that. It's a beautiful thing to look at and be in. This isn't really. This is probably a 7 out of 10, and I think the Lexus is a 9.5. Anyway, that's what I'd buy with my own money. So I think 10 minutes has passed now, guys, and you've got all the facts and figures, so you should be able to make up your own mind. Thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. I'll leave the link below. And yeah, cheers, guys. I'll see you next time.